Another important characteristic of ionic compounds when they are soluble in water is their ability to conduct electricity. An electrolyte is a substance that conducts electricity when dissolved in water or when it is melted. And the conduction of electricity is going to be due to the ability of the substance to actually form ions in solution. When it comes to electrolytes, we have three different types. The first one is going to be a strong electrolyte. A strong electrolyte is going to be described as a solute, in other words, an ionic compound that when it is dissolved in water, it forms a solution because it completely ionizes. For example, if we have a sodium chloride solution and we place in it an electrode with a light bulb, and then it is connected to electricity, we will see a bright light in the bulb. And that is because since the ions that are found in sodium chloride completely ionize in solution, they're going to be interacting with the electrodes and electricity can be conducted. Electrolytes that are known as hydrated ions, or in other words, weak electrolytes, are going to be ions in solution that are surrounded by water molecules. So, for example, an example of a weak electrolyte is going to be a solution that is made out of hydrogen monofluoride in water. Hydrogen monofluoride is a covalent compound that only partially ionizes. And since it only partially ionizes, and we see mostly in molecules in only a few ions, this is going to show a weak conductivity of electricity. And we see this reflected as a dim light in the light bulb. We also have what are called non-electrolytes. These solutes do dissolve in water, but they do not conduct electricity. The reason why they don't conduct electricity is because they do not form ions at all. So, for example, sucrose, which is a type of sugar, when you dissolve it in water, it does dissolve. But then, since sucrose does not form ions, it stays as a molecule even when we put electricity in it is not going to conduct it because its inability of actually forming ions. Electrolytes are very important for the human body. They play important roles in maintaining proper functions of cells and organs. Some of the ions that are important to be present in electrolytes and have been incorporated into drinks that people can ingest in order to replenish their electrolytes includes sodium, potassium, and chloride. The importance about electrolytes is that they balance the fluids in your body. They carry electrical signals to power the nerves and the muscles, and they help maintaining your blood's proper pH. The concept of pH is going to be explored actually in the next chapter. The next concept that we are going to explore is solubility. Solubility is defined as the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific amount of solvent under specific conditions of temperature and pressure. One of the things is that we have already observed in this chapter how solutions are made when we have solutes and solvents dissolving into one another. An example of a solution will be mixing 200 grams of mixed drink and solubilizing or dissolving it in 100 milliliters of water at 20 degrees Celsius. In order to express this solubility, what we're going to do is express the grams of solute over the grams of water that they were solubilized in. So that means that because this is the solubility threshold for the mixed drink, if, for example, you add more of the mixed drink to the the same amount of water, in this case, 100 grams or 100 milliliters, remember that the density of water is 1. So 100 grams of water, it will be the same thing as saying 100 milliliters. That's where the numbers come from. If if any mixed drink exceeds the 200-gram threshold, that means that some of it is going to remain undissolved. One of the examples of a solute that is in the human body that we know that we can found in food is vitamin C. When vitamin C is ingested in high amounts because it is soluble in water, that extra vitamin C that the body cannot absorb can actually be secreted in urine. So when we have substances dissolving into one another, we can actually talk about saturation. Saturation is going to be basically how much of a solute we can place in a solvent. And we can have saturated solutions and supersaturated solutions. Saturated solutions is going to be a solution that contains the maximum amount possible of a dissolved solute in a stable situation in the solvent. Understand that if you have less than the maximum amount of solute, that is unsaturated solutions. We can see in the example that we have in figure 16.15 that this is actually a supersaturated solution. Supersaturated solutions are unstable solutions that contain a more than the amount of solute that the solvent can hold. And supersaturated solutions are actually obtained by heating the solvent, in this case, because we have a solid in a liquid. And once that happens, this solution is actually unstable to the point that if you put a single crystal of your solute in the solution, as you can see in image 2 and 3, we have rapid crystallization of that excess solute in the substance. And when this crystallizes, then we see the extra solute just coming out of the solution. So supersaturated solutions are always unstable. Solubility is affected by many things, but in particular, we're going to study how does temperature affect solubility. When it comes to solubility, understand that most solids, when temperature increases, their solubility also increases. When we look at the line graph that we have in figure 6.16, we can observe how many solids, including potassium nitrate, sodium bromide, potassium bromide, potassium chloride, as we increase the temperature of our solvent, we're going to have an increase in the amounts of grams of solute that can be incorporated in 100 grams of water. Here, we only have one example of a gas in sulfur dioxide. And we can see that if you have a gas solute, the trend is different. If temperature increases for your solvent, then that means that the gas is going to be less soluble. So the increase in temperature actually decreases the solubility of most gases in their solvent. Pressure can also affect solubility. And what happens is that when it comes to pressure, pressure minimally uh, affects liquids and solids when they are being trying to be soluble. But pressure does affect the solubility of gases in waters significantly. The trend means that when it comes to solubility of gases in water or liquid solvents, the solubility of many gases is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas above the solution at constant temperature. So, whenever a carbonated beverage is created, understand that these gases are going to be pressurized. And because they are pressurized, that's how the solubility of the gas is going to increase in our solvent. So, all of this is actually given by a law. The law that explains how the solubility of a gas is directly proportional to pressure is called Henry's law.